We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
And I want to thank all of you listeners for catching the episode last week that I recorded about friendship marriages. And we're going to go and follow up on that tonight because we got a lot of feedback on that episode. Yours truly, King of Podcasts, here with you with another Depraved and Debaucherous. Thanks for listening in. And like I said, just to reiterate what was going on last week on the program when I talked about it. So you might remember that we talked about friend zones. And I've been talking about that pretty regularly. And what I was doing last week was I was going to probably do another show on the friend zones. But then I came across this story about friendship marriages. And by the way, I'm going to make sure I say that because I said relationship marriages several times after I said it initially, friendship marriage. I was talking about friendship marriage the whole time. So you might remember the thought about how women might think would love the answer to a successful marriage. And the obvious answer might seem to be yes, but the correct answer is no, according to the Japanese youth. Because in Japan, 1% of the population are subscribing to the idea of getting together in a friendship marriage. Now, let's just go back into that again, just to make the point that more and more Japanese youngsters are ditching traditional marriages, opting for non-romantic and platonic unions. The couples are legally hitched, but do not engage in romantic activities. And why would these Japanese folks want to choose friendship marriages? So, as we had talked about before, they had data that talked about that out of 124 million people in Japan, 1% are possible candidates for the arrangement. Asexual individuals, homosexuals, and heterosexuals delusion with traditional marriage. And since March 2015, 500 members have formed friendship marriage households, and some have raised children. So, to define it, is essentially a cohabitational relationship based on shared interests and values, not necessarily about marrying someone you love or marrying your best friend. They're legally spouses, but without romantic love or sexual interaction. And couples can decide to live either together or separately. If they decide to want to have children, they may do so through artificial insemination or IVF. And like I said, the story was going to get out there and spread. And I wanted to make sure that this point was put across to all of you listeners out here that catch this channel, and saying to myself, man, I don't want this shit to be going on in America or in the Western world. Because of what if this idea comes across and people think this is a good idea? Guys that get friend zoned. What if you are being duped into a friendship marriage by a woman whom you are infatuated with? You are enamored with. As long as you're with her because you're so in love with her and the idea of her, you are fantasizing the idea of marrying her. And then she tells you, yeah, we can get married. So you get the idea saying, yeah, she's my wife, but it has nothing to it. Nothing substantial, nothing romantic, nothing sexual. Do you really want that? Because that's going to become a reality here. And the listeners here also paid attention to what I was saying. So let's take the comments. There were quite a few. And I really appreciate it. This is all from YouTube, by the way. And I really love that I got all these comments from the episode. This was great. And it's the kind of dialogue I really wanted. So here we go. Moving into this, the first one I had came away from Steel Heroes Media 4699. Easy. Women get the financial and legal benefits of marriage without having to reciprocate in any way. Then Basil above 5,000 writes, why? So the state has someone to blame, a man to bill. If you want the easiest way to get caught up into something that you are going to pay for, because remember, marriage in the cause of the state, it never benefits a man unless there is a prenuptial agreement. So the thing is, would a guy take a friendship marriage and allow to have a prenup? Because if it's a friendship, there's no real traditional marriage vows being stated. I mean, why not? The thing too is that I didn't even think about this last week either. What if you were such a simp that you get this girl that you're infatuated with, you're enamored with, this is the love of your life, but she has no love for you. She not only makes you convinced, let's get married, she convinces you to have the wedding. She convinces you to have the wedding, to pay for the wedding, to give her that day, something new, something brown, something blue, all that shit. And then maybe she'll give you the kiss when you seal the deal. You may kiss the bride. Maybe you'll get that. But no honeymoon, nothing. It's an arrangement. It's an arrangement, and it's nothing worse than a sugar daddy arrangement or sugar arrangement as it is. And to think, and then she can be the mother of my kids. No. This cannot be the way you want to go. I implore all of you, please don't take this if this is brought to you, because this will become a thing in the Western world. I promise you. This is such a dumb idea in Western civilization that if enough women realize they can do this, and if enough simps out there can be duped to this, God forbid it happens. Because I would be scared if guys got caught up in this. And ladies, don't marry unless you love the person. Please don't. And by the way, this does not affect not just men and women. This is also homosexual relationships. Obviously, gay marriage could also be put into a way of friendship marriage. Could also be put in the same kind of mindset. It could very well happen. Beware. Please heed the caution here of this program. Hey, I'm being serious about it. It could very well happen here. We just started catching the story outside of the country, and all these Indian and Japanese outlets started talking about it. I'm like, okay, need to pay attention about this. Your old buddy King of Podcasts wanted to point it out, so be careful. So let's get back into the commentary here and the comments we got. So moving along, I have Forrest Asp 3047. Don't waste your time being friends with a girl who is not interested in you. Spend your time improving yourself. Correct. By the way, a lot of responses to that agreed. And by the way, a lot of people, they are against friendship marriages in the commentary. Nobody's really supporting this part. They just realize, what the hell is this? Another person writes, Michael Henders Hot 8604. Go ahead, be a fool. Again, it's the right direction. But Forced to Ask says it right. If it's not enough to realize that being friends with a girl doesn't work for you, if you've listened to enough of my friend zone commentary, okay, take it from someone who's gone through it a billion times. It feels like a billion times. But more than a dozen women have friends on me. I would never do the same thing again. And in retrospect, the women I was interested in that I was friend zoned by were not the kind of women I should have been going after and pursuing. Okay? Again, is because I was going after girls that fit a type that I want. Which, more than not, guys, you're not going to get the girl that's your type. Because sometimes the girl that's your type, that you've perceived to be your type, isn't the right one for you anyway. Because the real type you want is the ones you think you can't get. That are very irresistible, that you're intimidated to talk to, that you think are out of your league, you don't think you'll have ever a chance with. And the truth is, those are the ones you need to be going after. Because your percentages, your probabilities, because you need to go and get past that doubtful thinking of yours and realize, no, you need to go ahead and strive higher. And by the way, Forrest Task says it right. Spend time improving yourself. And it's not just to do it for yourself. It's also because, you will be desired just as much as the girl you desire that you would really want, right? Because the girls that are type is who we're settling for, who we would settle with. Let's be honest with each other, okay? Just because I like girls who are thicker or chubbier, that's my type, is because I am going for what is not exactly what I want. And I have other criteria, of course, but that criteria doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter because I realize that the girls I should have been going after in my 20s and 30s should have been higher value. And I should have been going after what was completely against my type. Because the type I had wasn't what I should have been going for. And that if I would have just put myself away without trying to chase some of these other girls and put myself in other circles and doing something else by myself to make myself available to the kind of girl I wanted, instead of the toxicity that I put myself through and the toxicity that I got as a result of trying to chase the wrong women. Okay. That's the part you don't want to do. So this friend zoning to the extreme right here, being duped into a friendship marriage, is no good for you. It's just not. More comments. Next, roommates that are legally married. Basically. It's like friends with benefits. But like even friends with benefits, if you have a girl staying with you for a while, or you're in you're off and on relationship, and then you just have a kid together, that becomes the same kind of thing. But it's like they still don't get married. You wouldn't want to do that. That's from David Jeter, 5067. Next, Trizzer89 writes, this will absolutely happen, but not that much. Men can dissolve marriage if it is not consummated. Is that right? That's an interesting thought. In a court case, can you make the case that the marriage, if it's not consummated, that the marriage is never valid? I'm not sure how that actually works. Because there's a thought process of a traditional marriage where, if you're going to have sex for the first time, it's going to be for the expectation of conceiving a child. I don't know if it's that or not, but usually isn't that what sex is supposed to be in a traditional, like, religious type marriage? I don't know. Maybe I'm not that smart about it, but I'm just thinking about that. Is that the way it goes? And then John Prim writes, any man who agrees to this should die penniless. He probably will. For any guy that thinks this is the right idea, this is just a mistake. And by the way, John Prim goes on the right as well. Friend zone marriages have always been normal, by the way. They're economic and survival agreements first and foremost for the women. How many guys really benefit from saying, let's go ahead and have a girl go and live with me? You think you're getting, you're going to split the bills and the responsibilities when normally it's going to be the woman that's going to get the less of that responsibility because the guy in the friend zone marriage is going to try to overcompensate for the woman, looking out for her as a man would, but also for the wrong reason because the woman doesn't have any interest in her. Sang Zhang 2241 writes, what a ridiculous ideal. It can only come from a woman shaking my head. Next up, I have Carl counts one. He says many men marry beautiful women strictly for social status. A man with a beautiful wife gets more respect from his friends and family. They'll even put up with lots of cheating, which is definitely going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But you would at least think, Carl, that if you're going to have that woman initially, before she starts cheating or before you start cheating, you do get it on. Like there is a honeymoon period. There is a honeymoon phase where both you would think would be in love. There has to be some kind of love. Like even in celebrity marriages, you think there's some kind of like love and affection for each other, at least in the initial part. And then the honeymoon phase goes and then people realize, no, we're not meant to be together. And then another one that goes by Squeaky, instead of the A, was SQU 34KY writes, I wouldn't label those creatures NEM. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. Next, from Skyline Fever, if Japan is 10 years in the future, it means they are 10 years in cyberpunk dystopia. A few people in the West will do this because they're otakus or dweebs. Probably pretty much. Yeah, this idea, what if we do have men that are like very much in the anime culture, like the manga culture, Japanese, otakus as they call them. And they feel like, well, they just want to have the pleasure of having a woman with them are attracted to in their home without any responsibilities, any obligations, nothing to it. They're just going to let a woman just live, in their presence, rent-free, love-free, in a friendship that only benefits her and not him. LU 5445, good, let them. Rosa J. Martinez writes, what the F? And then North Shore Light 35 says this will be a disaster. Yes, I'm reading all the comments. I can do that. It doesn't happen much. So I enjoy this part. Adam Walker 2337, what else did you think was eventually going to happen when we passed martial rape laws. That's interesting because the thing is, that is an excuse that can be used, right? That women could just say, well, there's a rape culture, and, any kind of contact or touching or any kind of intimacy could be considered rape. That's how severe it can be. And I understand where that's coming from. I don't like it. I just know that that is becoming a common thing. I mean, first of all, it's already bad enough for guys to even want to go ahead and get into a relationship or a friend or dating or just marriage. I mean, just look at your social media. Any Instagram, TikTok feed that you find out there, there's lots of women that are just not out there to get dating, and everybody's hating dating right now. I can imagine down the line that there might be some kind of performative kind of, person that might pull together a matchmaking agency just to create, just like Coloris in Japan, that says, well, let's just create friendship marriage matchmaking. I can see that happening too. Imagine that. Let's put people together, match them up because they want this way or whatever. I mean, you want to have a platonic friendship? You want to have roommates? Let's call it like that. Okay, what if you just rephrase it? Call it a platonic marriage. Does that sound appealing to you? Does that sound like a good idea? Because I don't think it is at all. Because anything that involves the aspect of marriage, the honeymoon, the wedding, the courtship, the conception of children, being a couple for the kids, it's also not a good environment either. As I said last week too, why would you want to have that going on? It sucks. Baker 8674 says, I give about 2 to 4 years to a similar trend starting in Western countries. Companionships is a new hot girl. Check it out. Companionships. Now, I wouldn't probably have too much to say about that because of the fact that, okay, if it's a companionship, it's still not a marriage. Like there's no legal binding. As long as you don't have that, where the guy is then going to be stuck with alimony or palimony or child support because, if you got a guy that can honestly stretch out the thought process and say, okay, look, we won't have sex. You'll have my kids. Like, I'll take your sperm and insert it in me. We're not going to do it the old fashioned way. We're not going to go bareback, but I'll let you put your seed in me, which I don't think a woman would even do because a guy that already friend zoned in the first place. Okay, the thought process, what would it be if it was a friend zone? Oh, you know what? This guy's got great ideals, great values. He's a decently good looking guy. I think I can have a kid with him and my kid will turn out great if it comes from him instead of the bad boy I want to be with. I could see a woman having some kind of logic like that. I really could. It's just not smart. Now, let's go extreme here from Solatisocesis. I'm not even going to say it again. Just don't be friends with women easy. Wow. That is hardcore. Ben Zur 4HO writes, marriage of conveniences and lavender marriages are nothing new. They've been in Japan for over 100 years at least, and were super common in Hollywood's golden age for all sorts of reasons, but usually because one or both parties were gay. Right, but still, the marriage laws back then would have been different before. It would have been different at one point. Lavender marriages, I've never heard of that before. I didn't even know that was a thing. So a lavender marriage is marriage between partners of different sexual orientations entered into hide one or both partners' sexual orientation, which may be stigmatized socially. Okay, I got that. Yeah, so I mean, it's still a marriage, and it's one of those things that they said it was by the major studios. So like when Elton John got married to that choreographer, who it was that he was with, the music producer, I think it was that kind of thing, or Rock Hudson getting married. Yeah, if they wanted to go and hide the fact that they might have been closet gay and they couldn't come out yet because, society wouldn't have allowed it. Yeah, that's a different story now, because I don't think we're going to get so much of that these days. But I mean, there's been talk of lavender marriages about the kind of idea of bringing that back. There's a story from Days Digital that talked about the idea of that because they took the story from the Maestro movie with Bradley Cooper. That would be a good idea. Because they're always talking about the fact that polyamory is already on the rise and a queer platonic relationship being touted as an exciting new model. queer platonic relationship is the same thing. And polyamory, in some of these cases as well, is as much as a friendship marriage. But these are relationships. They're not marriages. See, I'm saying this part. I'm not attesting anything to queer platonic relationships or companionships or polyamory. You want to do that? That's fine. That's all the praise and debaucheresses you want. Go right ahead. My issue, my contention is the marriage part. Is going to a part where it's going to be where the guy or the dominant person, let's just say it like that, will ultimately have to pay when divorce comes in. Like, it's just as bad as anything else. Doesn't matter. Marriage coming into place, unless you are absolutely in love with the person that you're with and you want to make a commitment for the rest of your life, then get married. And make sure to hold on to that marriage. Make it work. Teamwork. Make it work together. And that both of you are involved in this. And both have the ambition and the wherewithal that you want to get there and go forward. That's the marriage. And I praise all those people that decide to get married now. Let me tell you, I've had a few people that have been able to see that you thought they were going to get married. And the truth is, I don't want anybody to go and lose the divorce. I don't want that to happen. I don't want to see people less getting married. Like, if there's people that are married and they're happy, I want them to stay together and fight through the doldrums that might come through, after having kids. And the relationship doesn't have that spark like it used to when you were alone with each other and, fooling around like bunnies, right? Like, I want marriages to last because I don't want to see the sacrament of marriage to go by the wayside. I don't want to see that happen. But I also think there's a time where people shouldn't get married. And then when people do get married, stay married. I think it's very important. And then Phipps Deuce 2 writes, we already have a name for friend zone marriage. Because he's saying that some people already lose favor anyway. But the thing is, there's got to be some marriages that you got to have some kind of intimacy or some interlude romantically, sexually. There has to be something there. Otherwise, why get married? There's got to be chemistry. There's got to be something there that is part of it. There should be something there. Hopefully, you would think. But wow, that was some good commentary. I really appreciate all of you putting some time into that and really, adding to the conversation. This was really great to get this. And, I'm glad that a lot of people kind of follow along with my thought process on this. And I love that. And I'm glad that some people in this audience are thinking in that realm. And, I know I have a pretty good audience that comes out there that is consistently, when I look at the analytics and I look at who's actually listening to the audience here and it's following along, like the one thing I'm really curious about, because among the audience I have here, it's a lot of males and a lot 25 and up, 25 to 54. So, I get that. And about 2/3 of the audience that were following in or from US or Canada. And then the UK, all, English speaking countries. So that's good too. And I appreciate all that. I appreciate all of you putting in and contributing into this discussion. And I'd love to keep that going. Definitely let's keep more of that going on. That would be great to go and keep that up. Some other stories I want to bring up before we wrap things up, just to get ourselves for a 30-minute time limit. How about this story that came out? A woman leaves a bachelorette party after trusting her gut about sketchy men partying with friends. In the Uber, I've had plenty of times where I've had a bachelorette party where we had different women going out. And sometimes I've had one woman in the car with her other friends complaining about, the animosity you all have because of who they're talking to and who they're spending time with in a bachelorette system. Because remember, when you are bachelorettes, I've heard many times where a bachelorette party, the women are out there to kind of hook up. They're kind of wanting to have their own kind of tryst while they're out, celebrating their fellow friend that's going to get married. Story came up on Reddit. And talking about a 24-year-old woman that went to a bachelorette party with five other friends in Italy. So she writes, one night the 6 girls went bar and club hopping, met some new friends. We met some young people. They invited us to a party. We went and danced and met some more people. The night kept going on longer. We were very far from our lodgings. These young men with 2 women in their group told us to stay with them for the night. And then she had the first strong gut feeling. Yeah, something's wrong here. And then she says, I wasn't feeling the situation. It felt unsafe, but the group voted and I was in the minority. I didn't trust these men. Something seemed wrong, but I was at a loss. I could not split from my group and I didn't feel safe separating from them in the middle of the night. And even though the girls locked their doors that night, the men could enter their rooms, but the girls besides this girl all wanted to stay another day because the men promised to show them around Italy. Quote, I didn't want to get in the car with them because I found them creepy. There were women in their group, but it didn't matter. They seemed even more suspicious to me, being overly friendly. The whole morning I found the men staring at me a lot, and also making comments about my ethnicity. I'm Korean. And they could tell, and it seemed that they were interested in me because of my ethnicity, asking me strange questions, asking if I was a virgin or not. So in my head, I could only think of perverted reasons for these questions because I thought these guys were sketchy and sizing us up all for some reason I couldn't figure out yet. And then her friends, she says, tried to tell her it was just cultural differences, that the men weren't being creepy, and that she decided she wanted to leave. She finally left. She called her boyfriend in France a few hours away to come get her. She met him at a local store, and the bride-to-be she called and informed her she was leaving. The bride-to-be got upset, showed her on the phone, chastised her for spoiling the mood of the trip, and told her to fuck off. And then the other girls went on a boat with all the men, who all tried to get them extremely intoxicated, tried to aggressively pressure the girls into having sex. At the night's end, the girls got away from the men and found another hotel. Suspicions were confirmed. The bride-to-be was still upset with her, and this girl didn't attend the girl's wedding. She didn't go. So commenters overwhelmingly thought that this girl did the right thing by trusting her gut. And by the way, yeah, if you lose friends like that, so be it. This girl protected herself, and she was right about it. So good for her. I thought it was a very interesting story, and you know what? She was right about it. And you know what? If it were me, I probably would have thought the same thing. Smart girl. I'm happy for her. I'm glad she came out safe. And I guess she had a boyfriend too, so she wasn't necessarily trying to get together with those guys anyway. So that makes sense too. Tinder puts out information about skill-based matchmaking. They now have a thing out. So they're going to make a switch to skill-based matchmaking, according to their CEO, in a press conference they had just recently. And the certified sexperts they have are sick of being paired up with lame-o newbies who can't hold a conversation to save their lives. So the new system will work out this way. Quote, we've already begun the process of assigning all of our users with individual ranks to determine skill level. Lowest to highest are Virgin, Amateur, Pro, Sexpert, Shag, Champion, and Legendary Eagle Master, each with their own numbered sub-ranks. But we're assigning these ranks with no bias whatsoever. And to wrap up, they said there are exciting new steps for the app, reassuring those who might have been frightened by the change. Quote, once the ranking system is fully implemented, we really want to focus on multiplayer integration. So polyamorous users want them to party up with one another and search for their hookups collaboratively. But also they want have the more classic old school Tinder where people can still use the app without worrying about ranking in what we're calling casual mode. Yeah, I don't like this idea. I don't know about this. Like, you're talking about skills. Like, if I wanted to find somebody that works in media that I can meet online, I mean, I'd give that a shot, but I don't believe it. I don't think it'll be a good idea. I don't think it'll really work out either. I don't know. It sounds stupid. And by the way, when it comes to dating apps, there is an exodus right now. They're saying that Gen Z millennials are rebelling against Hinge, Tinder, and Bumble. They're not even getting involved in it. They don't want to be a part of it. That's not good. So Bumble got major backlash after running billboard ads targeting towards women with anti-celibacy messages saying, you know full well of how celibacy is not the answer, end quote. So this plan backfired. Women took to TikTok, Instagram, and X about how offensive Bumble's new ad campaign was to them, and that Bumble was turning a blind eye to the fact that women continue to lose reproductive rights. Others have experienced trauma that prevented them from enjoying and pursuing casual intercourse. And the theme of the ad feeds in the idea of a patriarchal society in which women are just objects for men to mess with. Oh. So 79% of college students and other Gen Zers are forgoing regular dating app usage and opting for in-person interactions, according to an Axios and Generation Lab study from 2023 of October. By the way, and where are they going instead? Sugar daddy apps. They might not say it here, but I'll guarantee you it is. Just saying. And who knows, probably next week I'll probably get back into that discussion because it just kind of happens once in a while that I just get back into it. And so some of the reasons we're hearing why Gen Z millennials are just dropping from the apps right now, one says is that it's a wasteland. Quote, I think the user pool on these apps has declined. Gen Z is simply not using these apps as much anymore. Another one is overly sexualized themes. And they talked to a freelance marketing specialist in the UK that quit Bumble and Tinder because She had been receiving overly sexualized messages and has been accidentally celibate for years after deciding against one-night stands in pursuit of a meaningful relationship. I wasn't taking a vow of celibacy. I was just realizing I deserve more than this. Straight away, they want you to send them pictures, and it was like to the point where none of the guys actually wanted to meet up in real life. It's like this online bubble for them. Next, paying for the apps. A lot of complaints about that. Quote, if I'd paid a month for online dating, I would like to think I've met somebody that I can at least be dating monogamously. Okay, I might not end up marrying the guy and might come back to the app to find the next one, but I don't want to pay for 3 months. And then the other comment was about the notion of rose jail that Gen Zers and millennials have discussed on TikTok with Hinge's paid membership tiers and other paid components of the app. The Hinge users could pay for roses in order to unlock their most compatible matches. Users don't want to pay and can't afford to pay to use the app are SOL on meeting whom they might actually be most compatible with. And then the return to reading in real life. So that's what people want to go and do instead. And try that now and see what happens. Now, Bumble has already acknowledged that they made a mistake. Quote, our ads referencing celibacy were an attempt to lean into a community frustrated by modern dating, and instead of bringing joy and humor, we unintentionally did the opposite. So the ads would be removed from their global marketing campaign, as well as they will make a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And Bumble's campaign could have very well been launched to try to cause controversy and more attention to brand, but it ultimately backfired. And it's relatively common for more popular progressive brands to push out campaigns that make some noise, create discussion, but the problem is that Bumble didn't realize they crossed the line a little too far. So the dating apps are making mistakes, and you know what? We're not getting any better ideas of moving along and finding romance or finding the idea of matrimony to be traditional. We don't want that either. We want to go a different route. Well, let's see how this works out. But like I said, I am glad to hear that my fellow listeners, they don't want to subscribe to the idea of friendship marriages. Thank you for not subscribing to that. Thank you for being so smart. I really love you guys. So don't worry about friendship marriages. Hookup culture is fine. And you know what? You want to go ahead and have whatever you want without marriage? Do it. And be as depraved and debaucherous as you want to be.